If this is your property, show me the deed.
I'm not obligated to keep proper damage, so you can body cam and pun becomes an issue.
You people always think you know the law.
I do, and your body camera's recording, so you may want to remember that before this becomes an issue.
The body cam recording would capture every second of what followed. William Reynolds stood on the steps of his own apartment complex, toolbox in hand, work clothes dusted with paint and sawdust. Officer Ryan Tucker was handling him like a suspect because 3 white tenants had called 911 to report a suspicious black man trying to force entry into the building. What Ryan didn't realize was that William owned 6 Denver properties valued at more than $4 million. He held a Stanford business degree and had spent 15 years in real estate. He built his portfolio from the ground up, one property at a time. And within the next 20 minutes, this interaction would end Ryan's career and cost the city $500,000. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, leave a comment and subscribe, because this story is unbelievable. William Reynolds was 42. He grew up in South Denver with a single mother who worked cleaning houses. She held 3 jobs to keep him enrolled in school. She taught him one defining principle: ownership is power. Possess what no one can take from you. William embraced that lesson. He thrived at Denver East High School and earned a full scholarship to Stanford. At 22, he graduated with a degree in real estate development and returned to Denver with a strategy. He began modestly, saving every dollar from his job as a property manager. At 25, he purchased his first property, a neglected duplex in 5 Points. He taught himself plumbing, electrical repairs, carpentry, renovated it personally, rented both units, and used the profits to acquire another building. By 30, he owned 3 properties. By 35, 6 small apartment buildings ranging from 8 to 12 units. He kept rents reasonable, handled repairs himself, and knew each tenant personally. He wasn't chasing luxury, he was building lasting wealth. The property on Welton Street was his most recent investment. 8 months earlier, he had bought the 4-story brick building with 12 units. It required extensive renovations, which made it affordable. William spent those 8 months restoring it unit by unit. Updated plumbing lines, modernized electrical systems, fresh coats of paint, new kitchen appliances. He completed most of the work himself to reduce expenses. He also genuinely enjoyed working with his hands, transforming neglected spaces into comfortable homes. That Thursday afternoon in October, William was finishing Unit 7. He had spent the entire day installing new kitchen cabinets. It was nearly 6 p.m. He was exhausted, covered in sawdust, ready to head home. He gathered his tools, locked the apartment, and walked toward the lobby. He intended to place his toolbox in the maintenance closet before leaving. As he crossed the lobby, he noticed 3 individuals outside the main entrance, all white, all recent tenants who had moved in during the previous 2 months as renovations were completed. William recognized them instantly. Janet from Unit 3, Paul from Unit 9, Sarah from Unit 11. He had personally toured them through their apartments, collected deposits and first month's rent, given them his cell phone number for maintenance issues. Yet something about the way they looked at him felt off. They weren't greeting him. They were staring with suspicion. William opened the front door. "Hey, everything okay?" Janet stepped back slightly. "We're fine. Just waiting for someone." William noticed her phone in hand. He sensed the tension. "All right, have a good evening." He stepped outside, walking toward his truck parked along the curb. Paul shifted to block his path. "Do you live here?" William paused, confused. "I own the building. You know that. I showed you your unit when you moved in." Sarah spoke hesitantly. "We saw you coming out with tools. We weren't sure you were supposed to be here." "I own the property," William repeated evenly. "I've been working in Unit 7 all day installing cabinets." The 3 exchanged glances. William saw it clearly. They had already made up their minds before he came outside. They didn't believe him. "Can we see some identification?" Paul asked. William felt irritation rising but kept steady. "I don't need to show ID to my tenants. I'm the landlord. You pay rent to my company." "We're worried about safety," Janet added. "There have been break-ins nearby." "I haven't broken into anything. This is my building." At that moment, a police cruiser pulled up. Officer Ryan Tucker was 33, 9 years with Denver Police. White, tall, with a military posture from 4 years in the Marines before joining the force. He saw himself as a solid officer, answered calls, followed protocol, protected the community. What he didn't recognize was his own bias. The way he instinctively trusted some and doubted others. The way certain faces seemed suspicious to him while others did not. Ryan grew up in suburban Colorado Springs. His father and grandfather had both worn badges. He enlisted in the Marines at 18, served in Iraq, returned home, and joined Denver Police at 24. Over 9 years, he conducted 537 stops. 64% involved Black or Hispanic residents in a city where those groups comprised 35% of the population. He believed he simply patrolled high-crime neighborhoods. He never questioned the pattern. He had been near 5 points when dispatch aired the call. 3 callers reporting a black male in his 40s attempting to break into apartments on Welton Street, carrying tools, forcing entry into multiple units. Possible burglary in progress. Ryan arrived and saw a black man in work clothes holding a toolbox on the front steps. 3 white residents stood nearby looking uneasy. Ryan exited his cruiser, hand instinctively resting near his belt. The tenants gestured toward William. William saw the officer approach and felt his stomach tighten. He had seen enough viral videos to know how quickly situations could spiral. But he also knew his rights. Ryan approached without greeting. "Step away from the building. I need to ask you some questions." William stood firm. "I'm the landlord. These are my tenants. There's been a misunderstanding." Ryan's expression stayed blank. "Do you have documentation proving that?" "I'm not required to carry property deeds on me. You can confirm ownership through dispatch or public records, or you can stop giving me an attitude and hand over your ID. I haven't committed a crime, so there's no legal basis for that." Ryan's jaw tightened. "You people always think you know the law." The words hit hard, but William stayed composed. "I do, and your body cam is on, so I suggest you keep that in mind before this turns into a problem." The tenants watched nervously. Sarah seemed ready to speak, then stopped. She looked like she realized this had gone too far, but didn't know how to undo it. "Are you threatening me?" Ryan asked. "I'm informing you that everything you're saying is being recorded." "That's not a threat. It's a fact." Paul stepped forward. "Officer, we called because we saw him coming out of different units with tools. We didn't know who he was." William turned sharply. "You're serious? I showed you your apartment 6 weeks ago. I fixed your garbage disposal last month. You have my phone number." Ryan raised his hand. "Last chance. I need identification." "It's in my truck. I'll retrieve it." "No. Stay here. Tell me where it is and I'll get it." "That's my vehicle. You can't search it without probable cause or my consent." "I'm not searching. You're directing me." "I'm not directing you. If you want to see my ID, I'll get it. Otherwise, verify through dispatch. You're making this harder than necessary. I'm asserting my Fourth Amendment rights." "You're escalating." Ryan removed his handcuffs. "Final warning. Hands behind your back." "For what specific crime?" William asked steadily. "What exactly am I being arrested for?" "Trespassing. Obstruction. I own the property. How can I trespass on my own building? And stating my rights isn't obstruction." Ryan grabbed his arm. William pulled slightly away but didn't strike or shove. "Don't touch me. I'm not resisting. I don't consent to detention. You lack probable cause." Ryan called for backup, reporting a non-compliant suspect. Within minutes, 2 additional patrol cars arrived. 4 officers now surrounded William. One of them, Officer Sandra Mills, a 12-year veteran, assessed the scene calmly. She had witnessed similar situations before. "What's going on?" she asked Ryan. "He claims to own the building. Won't provide ID. Resisting." Sandra turned to William. "Sir, do you have identification?" "Yes. In my truck. I offered to get it." Sandra looked at Ryan. "Why can't he retrieve it himself?" Ryan stiffened. "He wasn't cooperating. I was refusing to allow an unlawful search," William clarified. Sandra studied the tenants. "Do any of you know this man?" Silence. Sarah finally spoke softly. "He might be the landlord. He showed me my unit." "He owns the building," Sandra said plainly. "Why would he need permission to be here?" No response. She faced William. "Please retrieve your ID. I'll walk with you." William nodded. He retrieved his wallet, handed over his driver's license and business card. Sandra asked for documentation. He provided a folder from the back seat containing deeds, tax records, insurance papers clearly listing him as owner. Sandra returned to Ryan. "He owns it. Everything checks out." Ryan said nothing. "I offered to show ID," William said, voice tight. "You went for handcuffs." Ryan had no defense. Sandra addressed the tenants bluntly. "You called 911 on your landlord?" "We didn't know," Janet muttered. "You pay rent to his company?" "Yes." You've met him before? Silence. Sandra sighed. You reported a black man doing maintenance in a building owned by a black landlord you knew performs his own maintenance. That's what happened. It sounds bad when you say it, Paul said. It sounds bad because it is. She turned to William. You're free to go. You should not have been detained. William faced Ryan. I want your badge number. Your supervisor's name. I'm filing a complaint. This was a misunderstanding, Ryan muttered. No, William said firmly. You assumed I was a criminal. Ignored me when I said I owned the building. Tried to arrest me at my own property. Used racially charged language. That's profiling. The other officers shifted uncomfortably. Sandra nodded. He's correct. Ryan gave his badge information and retreated to his cruiser. William stopped the tenants as they tried to leave. You called police on me. I want to know why. We were concerned, Janet said weakly. Concerned about what? A black man in work clothes carrying tools in his own building? If I were white, would you have called? No answer. Your leases expire soon, William said evenly. They will not be renewed. You can't evict us for calling police, Paul protested. I'm not evicting you. I'm choosing not to renew. That's my right. Sandra did not intervene. He was within legal bounds. That night, William contacted civil rights attorney David Chin. Within 24 hours, a formal complaint and federal lawsuit were filed citing unlawful detention and racial discrimination. 2 days later, the story broke across Denver media. Bodycam footage was released through public records. It showed William calm and factual. It showed Ryan saying, "You people always think you know the law." It showed Sandra correcting him. The clip went viral. The phrase, "you people," ignited outrage. The hashtag #OwnersWhileBlack trended locally. Civil rights groups cited it as a textbook example of coded racial language. Internal Affairs opened an investigation within a week. They questioned Ryan extensively. Why detain before verifying ownership? Why ignore his statement? Why use that phrase? Ryan said William looked suspicious. He couldn't define what that meant. Investigators reviewed his record. 537 stops, 343 involving black or Hispanic residents. Only 9 convictions from 117 arrests. 26 complaints, 18 alleging racial bias. After 4 weeks, findings concluded he detained William without reasonable suspicion, failed to verify the complaint, used racially charged language, and demonstrated implicit bias. Recommendation: termination. The chief accepted. Ryan Tucker was fired 34 days after the incident. Williams' lawsuit moved forward citing 4th and 14th Amendment violations, emotional distress, and failure to train. The city settled for $520,000. William insisted on reforms: mandatory 80-hour implicit bias training, early intervention tracking systems, public stop data reporting, verification policies before detention, enhanced training on property rights. He also helped design the curriculum. 3 years later, stops of black residents in 5 points dropped 29%. Profiling complaints fell 38%. Officers' new patterns were monitored. The 3 tenants moved out when their leases expired. Word spread. Ryan relocated to Wyoming, working private security. No police department rehired him. He never apologized. William expanded to 9 properties, helped families of color purchase homes, mentored young entrepreneurs. He still remembered standing on his own steps treated like a criminal. This story matters because ownership doesn't shield you from prejudice. William did everything right: education, success, property, and was still presumed guilty. Ryan saw a black man with tools and imagined crime. He chose assumption over verification, bias over reason. That decision cost him his badge and the city over $500,000. William chose documentation, accountability, and reform. Today, he still owns the Welton Street building. He still performs maintenance in work clothes, carrying tools. But now his tenants know exactly who he is. And if they don't, they ask instead of dialing 911. If this story shifted your perspective on property rights and profiling, subscribe for more. Leave a comment. Have you ever been questioned somewhere you unquestionably belonged? See you in the next one.